thanks for attending our Lunch and Learn session. We actually just wanted to take some time today to go over some of the questions we couldn't answer on the day. We'll rehash some of the existing ones as well, but we just wanted to cover everything off for you guys. And the first question we've got is how can Copilot be set up to have one spot to ask a question and it'll access information across all Microsoft applications, and also how's security controlled? So it's a bit of a two-part question. So Copilot, basically, it does already inherently have access to all your Microsoft applications and business data. So there's no actual special setup there or changes need to be made. And the security is also enterprise grade. So it's kind of baked into Copilot already, and it leverages the Microsoft Purview and security and compliance platforms in the background as well. So there isn't too much in the way of customization that's needed. You can obviously customize it in terms of how you want to restrict its access to data more so than open it up.
I'd also add to that we natively, it's got that enterprise grade security capabilities in there, and we can add to that. So there's the framework there for us to enhance that security. But there's the two Copilot apps, right? There's the free version and there's the 365 one that we want to sign into.
Yeah.
So
you do have to make sure that it is the M365 Copilot app that you're using, which is the enterprise app.
And that just kind of safeguards us and allows us to access that company data, right?
That's right, yeah.
All right, how is automation different from building an app using a developer? What are the advantages to automating rather than developing an app?
Basically, I would put automation versus app building, app developing down to developing an app is more like building a house from the ground up, a designer home. It's expensive, you need contractors and third parties. There's regulations and rules to obviously comply with. Whereas automation is kind of like renovating a kitchen. So there are parts of it that you can do yourself. You can continue to add on it and build and grow it. You can bring in external contractors. So there is quite a big difference. And obviously automation is something that you grow upon as well, build upon, I should say. So once you've essentially gotten to a point, you can continue on as well and just make it bigger and bigger.
I think one of the things that we touched on was the speed of AI's progressing, more so than any technology that we've ever really seen before. And the problem with traditional kind of app development is that time to market. It takes so long to get something built and to a point where you want to be using it and the rest of it, where it's returning a value to you, whereas automation can be much faster and getting those little
That's right. You've got easier, quicker wins that you can kind of tick off and get through as well, which makes that build out a lot quicker. So the next question we've got is, how can I get my boss on board with a proper plan and strategy for using Copilot and AI in the workplace?
Yeah, so that's quite a common question of variations of that. How do I get my boss on board, or what my first steps are? And it's one that we addressed during our chat, was kind of starting with the formation of that AI council, so your executive sponsor and your AI champions, and kind of forming your plans from there. What are your motivations for AI integrations? What are your outcomes that you're chasing for as well? Directly answering that one of how do I get my boss on board, we spoke a minute ago just on the two variations of Copilot. So there's actually a free version, that is wrapped around with some enterprise grade security already. So that will allow you to play around with AI, get a feel for it without having to spend any money, which is often the biggest kind of concern along with security. And I'd say both of those are addressed with the free version of Copilot. It'll at least get you started off and seeing some quick wins that you can get straight out the gates. Another great way of getting started would be taking some kind of independent resources. We have on offer the AI readiness assessment, and that really kind of gets our minds focused and challenges us on where we could see AI being put to work for us in our business. The next question up there is, can we recommend trainers to assist with using Copilot specifically in Excel?
Obviously that's something we can definitely help out with ourselves, but also I would probably mention that you can actually use Copilot to train with Excel. Copilot does natively interact with Office apps, as we all know, and there is a little pop-out window on the right-hand side which allows you just to ask simple questions like, how do I generate this formula? I need to get to this output from this data, and you'd be able to just leverage the question and answer, or the generative chat function of Copilot to get the most out of Excel.
That might get enhancement as well, right? When we get the Copilot kind of function readout where we'll be able to call Copilot directly in a cell.
Yeah, definitely. Obviously features are changing pretty rapidly, especially with Excel, which has been a highly requested change that they needed to make with Copilot. And there is a feature coming where you'll be able to drop into a cell in Excel and hit the equal sign and then type Copilot and basically just ask it what kind of formula that you want it to fill out for you. That is coming.
Yeah, that'd be really cool.
The next question we've got is, so Fiona showed us Kymchat, and we've got a question if all organizations can rename Copilot and assign our own avatars, or is this LLM specific? So Copilot, or the M365 Copilot app, can't be renamed or rebadged. That is natively Microsoft's app. But there are other ways you can leverage the Copilot sort of ecosystem to develop your own app or agent. Then obviously you do have the ability to rebadge and rename. It's just the back end side of things that still utilizes Copilot.
Next question up there is, what can we tell you about the new Excel labs?
Currently in the Frontier program, it is supposed to be reaching general availability very soon. It's actually a little bit behind at the moment, so I'm expecting 2026 to be fully into general release. Excel Labs basically allows Copilot to interact with your spreadsheet. So by default at the moment, Copilot will just simply be sort of a chat window that sits on the side that will give you recommendations and tell you how to do things without actually interacting so much. So Excel Labs will basically allow Copilot to alter your tables based on what you ask it to do. You could highlight data and have it create a full graph for you, and then you can edit that graph on the fly in the Copilot window as well for full integration to Excel, which is coming soon, hopefully.
You mentioned at the start of that Frontier. What is Frontier, just for those who aren't aware?
Yeah, so that's kind of like the beta program, so kind of like the testing phase. You can kind of get in there and have a bit of a play with it. Doesn't have all the features yet, may have some bugs and things here and there. And you can, as of right now, install Excel Labs from the Office web app store and have a bit of a play around with it. And obviously, you just have to expect the bugs.
And Frontier, that's available for everyone with a Copilot license, or do you need to do anything to get that? The Excel agent is one kind of feature, but there's others, right, from the Frontier program. So how would you access
there's all
those?
sorts of agents as well built into the Frontier program. Look, by default, most organizations, or every organization, does have access to the Frontier program. If you don't, or if you don't see any sign of that at all, it could just mean that your IT admins have locked it down, which can be done as well. So, but by default, it's all there and available. Agents in the agent store, things like Excel Labs are via the Office app store.
All right, next up, can I connect Copilot to my non-Microsoft apps like my CRM or documents that live outside of OneDrive?
It depends on the vendor, essentially. So it depends what APIs they've got open. If they've got connectors available in the Microsoft store, or say in the Office 365 plugin store. And if they do, then by all means, there are ways of integrating with a CRM.
We're seeing better connectivity for those kind of more, those higher tiered Microsoft partners, SAP, Ignite, other kind of vendors who have been working with Microsoft for a long time and had early access to things like Copilot, are releasing connectors or have released connectors a lot faster. But then the benefit of a connector is that you're not having to do anything, right?
Yeah,
you just enable a connector, and then the functionality that's available is natively available.
Yeah, that's right.
APIs are a little bit more custom and then require the likes of a Centurion engineer to come on board and help you configure that functionality there, program it in. It's a little bit more involved.
The other aspect to that as well that you have to keep in mind is that with connectors, and especially with API integrators, is permissions and access. So when it comes to connectors, you probably don't want to just make that available to everyone to be able to utilize. So that's another thing that does have to be considered as well. The next question is, I'm starting to see Copilot show up in Office apps, but I've not paid for a subscription. What are the limitations of that, and is it safe to use? It is safe to use. If it's Copilot, it's Copilot. Especially if it's built into the Office apps, that does mean that you're looking at the M365 Copilot variant, which is the enterprise application. What I would say is that if you don't have a subscription, you're utilizing the free version of M365 Copilot, which means it's not grounded on your business data. It's basically just an integrated generative chat app that you can interact with.
All right, next up, what license subscription is required for Facilitator? So Facilitator was that piece that we spoke about, the kind of the evolution of AI note-taking within kind of Microsoft Teams environment, and that is a feature of the Copilot license. So you need a Copilot-ready license to make use of that.
When you are looking for the Facilitator, the meeting needs to be organized by someone with a Copilot license at the moment. There was some information around suggesting that that's going to transition into just having a Copilot enabled staff member in the meeting. But as of right now, the Copilot licensed user must organize the meeting to be able to switch on and utilize Facilitator.
Are there current or future capabilities of an AI agent extracting and analyzing data from a GIS system, mapping system, either online, like online GIS or PDF maps?
Right now, I wouldn't say that it is a native capability. That's a bit of a niche knowledge source for something like Copilot. Having said that, you can build in, I would say, connectors, depending on the GIS system and again, what sort of APIs it has open and available. There are other options like creating a customized LLM or a customized agent that backs onto an Azure database that's got that GIS system information in it so that it can extract and then hand off somewhere else to kind of manipulate and work with that data. Yeah, so not a simple answer or even a simple thing to sort of get going with, but I would say that is, at the end of the day, possible. And the next question is, what is the risk of Copilot getting access to data that a user does not have access to? This is actually a really good question because I don't think it actually gets asked enough. Copilot does natively have access to everything that particular user has access to. And what you can start to see as this user queries Copilot, performs searches with Copilot, more often than not, they may have access to, say, a SharePoint site that no one was really aware of, or it's a legacy system that they used to have access to and shouldn't anymore. If they start to interact with Copilot, it can drag some of that info back up out of that SharePoint site or that knowledge source. So there is inherently a risk there, but that is kind of why we like to couple things like the Copilot Quick Start program in with a data security and compliance program, just to kind of, even if it's a high level review of sort of where your data is and who might or should have access to it and that sort of thing, just to give it an eye over.
And it's an interesting one because when we think of the risk of a user of Copilot having access to data, we're thinking data that a user shouldn't have access to. But another consideration is just legacy data that's aged out, and that's something that came up for one of our clients just last week when running through a Copilot Quick Start engagement, where they were finding that Copilot was returning unexpected results from documents that people created 5 years ago.
And that happened to be on SharePoint as well.
That happened to be on SharePoint, and the client wasn't a massive user of SharePoint. So this was kind of all new to them and really kind of giving them unexpected results. So that kind of illustrates that importance of a good sort of data governance strategy. And we're not just considering security access, but also kind of data age out as well. And you touched on the SharePoint thing too, but we also kind of uncovered early on in our own pathway for Copilot the risk of creating a Copilot SharePoint agent and then sharing that with someone else outside of your team.
There's definitely a risk. So if you create a Copilot agent Lite, an agent that's built in the Copilot app by users, and if they go and then share that agent with someone else, so say if the person who created the agent is in HR, they created a HR assistant that has access to certain HR knowledge sources, and they shared that with someone else, all of the sources where that knowledge is actually gets shared with it. So that user that it's going to will get added to all of that HR data so that they inherently have that access now.
So the key takeaway there is that you are able to bypass that. Traditionally it would be the IT department or someone who would kind of levy out the control, the access permissions for SharePoint, but you can actually bypass that with these kind of agent creations. So it's something to be aware of. So
the next question we've got is, if you had to choose one governance aspect as the most important around Copilot, what would it be? Knowing that Copilot's already protecting data with M365 environment.
It really comes down to a couple things. There's governance. When we talk about governance in Microsoft 365, we're talking about the Microsoft Purview portal, which is split into 5 or 6 different solutions. And the ones that are most pertinent to Copilot and AI governance as a whole are insider risk management and data loss prevention. Because when you're licensed for those 2 features, you can levy DSPM for AI. That's the data security posture management for AI. So that enhances those first 2 solutions and allows you to kind of get deeper insights into who's using AI, what tools they're using, even looking at the sensitivity of data that they're sharing if they're uploading documents to those tools. And I think you can even access the prompts that they're using as well. It's quite a powerful tool. So insider risk management and DLP, that data loss prevention, would be the 2 most important aspects of governance, I'd say. Microsoft has Copilot, Practice Management app has AI modules, and our DMS has AI as well. So how is it all linking together, and which AI tool should I be using?
A bit of a tough question to answer quickly, but I would incline to say that you should use the AI tool that best links up with your company policies. So when you've got this many AI tools available to you, it's going to come down to primarily be a business decision about which one staff should be using. I would say that most practice management and even DMS systems have integrators with Copilot or connectors that'll allow you to kind of bring that information into Copilot, but whether or not the business wants that to happen.
Sure.
So obviously you'll be utilizing Copilot for a lot of your business knowledge in SharePoint and Teams and things like that, and then to have your practice management data brought into the mix could be a bit of a risk. So in that instance, you might still need to jump between two. It really comes down to just using the best one for your particular role or task, I think.
All right. Generally, early adopters could be penalized with high costs of new technology. How is AI changing and progressing, and why should we jump on it now as opposed to in the future when the technology may become cheaper due to adoption and growth? So I think we touched on this a little bit earlier on, just the speed at which the technology is moving along and enhancing. We're getting to the point now where it's so prevalent in every kind of tool that we're touching on. We're not needing to spend big money to make use of this tool because it's in our tools natively already now. When we're talking about maybe using custom agents or creating custom links to disparate systems, that's when costs are increasing, but we don't necessarily need to be jumping in from the deep end. In fact, that's what we talk about with a lot of our clients when we have these conversations, is that we want to be taking manageable bites out of this, and that doesn't start with taking a dive in from the deep end to try and get that kind of all singing, all dancing usage.
Yeah, when it comes to costs with M365 Copilot as well, obviously it's subscription based, especially for what we're talking about with the generative app. It's very rare for a subscription cost to go down. It very likely will become more expensive as they add on features and grow this product. So, I mean, now's as good a time as any to jump on the Copilot bandwagon, if anything.
In fact, not to contradict you there with the subscription costs coming down, but Microsoft have announced in their conference the other week that they are now packaging Copilot with the business SKU of their licenses. So if you're on business standard, basic, or premium, you can now partner that with Copilot and have different kind of levels of access to that. It's only available in America at the moment, but you imagine that's coming across to this region as well. All right, I think this one is for you. Can you talk more about Copilot Workflow and how we can implement that when it releases?
Yeah, so I mean, at the moment it's in the Frontier program. You've got access to the Frontier program already, unless the IT admin has locked it down. But you can add the Workflows agent for Copilot, and that will allow you to basically create things that will run off of a trigger like a schedule. So, every morning at 8 a.m, run through my emails from the previous day, let me know what I've missed, order it by what's important, send that to me in Teams as a message, that sort of thing. So we don't know when it's coming out of the Frontier yet, but it is available in Frontier, again, with some bugs and some features that are still being built on. That's just one thing to be mindful of. For implementation, you will find that in the Copilot agent store in your Copilot app. Otherwise, your IT admin can push that out as well if you don't see it there. So they'll be able to do that from the admin portal.
How do we see improvements of AI impacting and changing the way we invoice our clients?
So what comes to mind is a lot of the administrative side of invoicing, and obviously keeping up with accounts is probably where AI is going to make the most impact. I wouldn't say payment automation is happening, but a lot of invoice ingestion automation is happening, taking it from a lot of businesses still receive invoices attached to or embedded into emails, and a huge part of AI is reading that attachment, taking that invoice data and putting it into a system where you make those payments, so that they don't have to juggle so many systems and finding emails and things like that. So I think that that's where the biggest improvement's going to be, and is already starting to happen.
And I think what's important to highlight as well is the human element that has to remain in stuff like this, especially when we're invoicing. This can affect our margins. We want to make sure there's a human in there checking over, what has been picked up by that AI.
Yeah.
And our final question is, do we have any simple agent suggestions we can make and share to staff to get them used to interacting with Copilot?
Yeah, actually, there's quite a few that you can do. So again, leveraging the Copilot Agent Lite system, which is built into the M365 Copilot app, you can create, say, a SharePoint repository of very common HR policies. And you can basically create an agent that is pointed specifically at that SharePoint library as a knowledge source and nothing else, so that it can't draw on information from the web. That'll allow you to keep that knowledge source up to date with what you want to see it providing to those staff members. They're able to then interact with that agent and ask very common common questions about their role or about policies and procedures within the company without having to bother managers and HR.
Microsoft also have a bunch of agents right out the gate just to get you started. So we spoke about some of them already. The Workflows agent, which is coming out through the Frontier program. You also have Analyst and Researcher. I think you got Prompt Coach, you got loads. You've got some cool ones coming up like the Project Manager. There's lots going on in that space.
Definitely check out the agent store in the Copilot app as well, just to see if there's any of those pre-canned Microsoft ones that'd be fun to play with. So thanks for sending in all your questions. Obviously, we couldn't get through to all of them on the day, but I'm hoping that we've answered them all for you guys today. And if you've got any more, please send them through, and also check out, we plan to have ongoing webinars where we can answer a lot of these questions for you, and you can dive in and obviously interact with us and ask them on the day as well.
Yeah, it was great to have you all with us for our first in-person event. As Jaeden says, please do keep in touch and follow. We have newsletters and the likes kind of coming out with new services and new webinars and events that we'll be running. If you're interested in learning more about our AI readiness assessment, where we can run a workshop with you to uncover what AI can do for you guys in your workplace, or the Copilot Quick Start if you're ready to jump right in and get going on your AI kind of adventure, please reach out and we can get a meeting sorted and get started with you. But until then, thank you.
Thank you.